All right, everybody, welcome to Fantasy Football Live with the Fantasy Sports Boss. We've got some instant breaking news about Jalen Hurts, the fantasy football and NFL MVP candidate, looking doubtful to play against the Dallas Cowboys on Christmas Eve, which, of course, is the fantasy football semifinals. So if you've been riding Jalen Hurts this whole time, you're likely already in the playoffs, and you're probably still alive after another good game against the Chicago Bears. Now looking at the very distinct possibility that Jalen Hurts is not going to play in the fantasy football semifinals. And really, with the Eagles having sewn up pretty much everything, there's really no need to put him out there. You know, Gardner Minshew, one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. So there's really no need for the Eagles, who pretty much have everything sewn up already, to put Jalen Hurts out there. But this is a big one for sure. And it kind of slipped a little bit under the radar. Myself, I didn't just realize it until I was just tipped off about this a couple of minutes ago, about the shoulder injury for Jalen Hurts that he suffered against the Chicago Bears. And now it looks like he may not be able to play. So that is a big, big deal. It was a ridiculously entertaining fantasy football week 15. Hopefully you're still alive. I have one team left. One of my two teams is kaput. Got my ass completely handed to me yesterday by a team that I destroyed last week. Turned the tables on me this week. Law of averages, I guess, caught up. And I am out of the playoffs in my the one league that I was struggling all season in. It just never came together, that team. That's how it goes sometimes. And in my other league, I had a bye, lost Jonathan Taylor probably for the season. But what was interesting in that league is that the best team in that league got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. And you know what? He tempted the fantasy football gods in saying that his team, you know, coming into the week, he was sending me text messages that he can't wait. You know, he looks forward to playing me next week. His team is going to dominate. Went get the money ready, and now he's out. So you know what? When you tempt the fantasy gods, this is what happens. So, all right, everybody, hit the subscribe, hit the notification button, and the like button if you can. Zamora already pointed that out. Thank you. And Duvernay, yeah, they're going to rest him for the playoffs. There is no reason for the Eagles to put Jalen Hurts out there. But again, it was just an incredible. This was one of the wildest weekends of football I've ever seen in my entire life. Not only did you have the Houston Texans almost upset the Kansas City Chiefs, and that game went to overtime. You know, I believe the spread on that was about 14 plus. This is why I don't gamble for, you know, instances just like this, that the Chiefs had a hard time putting away the Houston Texans. Then you had the big comeback by the Jacksonville Jaguars, walk-off interception return for a touchdown. You have Joe Burrow doing his thing in the second half after a truly atrocious first half, when I posted that Zach Taylor doesn't know what he's doing, and I stand by that statement. I think he's winning in spite of himself, and really he owes everything to Joe Burrow. And then, of course, there was that New England Patriots utter debacle, disgrace, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there are no words for what happened at the end of that game. It was just a WTF moment that you just had to see it to believe it. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sure it's all over YouTube. Do yourself a favor. Go watch how that game ended. You know, the Ramondre Stevenson, first of all, not throwing the Hail Mary is one thing. You don't trust Mac Jones to throw it down the field. That's fine. Then just sit on the ball. Play for overtime. And this had a lot of ramifications, but as far as the play itself is concerned, just a stupid move by Jacoby Myers, who's been crap all season, and now this just compounds the matter. And then for Chandler Jones to pick it off, and then Mac Jones completely trucked, run over literally. I mean, it looked ridiculous. And then for the Raiders to win in that fashion. I mean, how about if you're Bill Belichick? You spend the entire week, every waking moment, preparing for a game each week like this, and then to have it end like that, where your team just does something so outrageously stupid that you lose a game in that fashion. I mean, it was ridiculous. There is no other way to describe what happened at the end of that game. It was oh my God, did you see that moment where you're firing off text to everybody you know who likes football, sharing the clip of it? I know I did. It was just beyond insane. I don't know if that had, you know, if that score tilted anything with the over-under or the point spread. I have no idea. I don't know what those numbers were. But here's the other thing. From a fantasy perspective, there were huge ramifications. I told you about that team in my other league that was the best team in the league that got upset. Well, he had Devontae Adams and he had Josh Jacobs on that team. Overtime would have given him probably a couple of more points that he would have been able to pull it out. But instead, Adams, first of all, and I did an Adams season ender video earlier today. The last 2 weeks were just horrendous for Adams with 7 and then 10 and then 7 fantasy points. Just ridiculous. Dragged his teams down for sure. But that game, the ending of that game had huge ramifications for Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Derek Carr owners who were looking to pad their numbers, even Ramondre Stevenson, who were looking to add a couple of extra points late in the schedule. I mean, that was just ridiculous. I can't even believe that it would end that way, especially a Bill Belichick team. It was unbelievable. All right, pick one QB: Huntley, Darnold, Daniel Jones. Well, definitely not Darnold. That's a tough. I'd have to say Huntley because he's got the Falcons, even though he hasn't played well either. And Daniel Jones, he really didn't do anything last night. That was, totally on the defense. And let's face it, too. Anybody watched that game? The Giants got away with one because Darnay Holmes absolutely committed pass interference on that last play of the game. And Terry McLaurin, as far as lining up in the neutral zone, there's video of him checking with the referee, and it seemed like he got the signal that he was good to go. And then, of course, they throw the flag there. Ron Rivera was absolutely beside himself, and the Giants really escaped with one there. But how about Kayvon Thibodeau? 12 tackles, sack, forced fumble, and the touchdown. The kid's legit. He's going to be really something else. I need that too. DJ No Watson and All Jones. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous, that game. And honestly, Bill Belichick, obviously, he's the best coach there ever was, but I can't even imagine what was going through his brain after that. I mean, that was as bad a beat as you're ever going to get, for sure. Now, the other thing was the Jets. So Zach Wilson got the start. I talked about how Joe Flacco should have gotten that start for the Jets. And, Wilson did throw 2 touchdown passes. He had, three completions over 40 yards. He did make some throws late that got the Jets in position to attempt a Hail Mary field goal. Excuse me. Sorry about that. To attempt a Hail Mary field goal that was just had no chance. But as far as Zach Wilson is concerned, I've been scouting players for a long time, doing my draft guides for about 15 years, scouting college players. I have never seen a quarterback that has as little pocket awareness, lacking in the fundamentals, as I've seen with Zach Wilson. Like, it's beyond pathetic. He has no touch. He has no awareness in the pocket when it comes to pressure. His footwork is a mess. He has no feel. He doesn't put the ball in a position for his receivers to continue to run with it. He's missing guys left and right that are wide open. It's just downright comical. He is one of the worst quarterbacks fundamentally that I have ever seen. That's how bad it was. Now, I know he threw a couple of touchdown passes. He did make some deep completions, no doubt about it. But it is not hyperbole when I say that I have never, maybe since Ryan Leaf, seen a quarterback this pathetic when it comes to fundamentals, touch, awareness, you name it. That's Zach Wilson. He is a lost cause. I know you can say, oh, it's only a second year, but he does pretty much everything that you're not supposed to do as a quarterback. And, it was just, Mike White's got to be the guy. And I know they, Joe Douglas, the GM, has a lot invested in Wilson, in terms of his legacy as well as a GM, using the second overall pick on him. It is not working. It's not going to happen. All you need to do is look this Thursday when the Jets play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback who was as can't miss as it gets, best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, in my opinion, had to survive the ridiculous nightmare of playing under Urban Meyer last year. And you're seeing him blossom now. 10 touchdown passes the last 3 weeks, 4 each of the last 2 games. He is playing near flawless football. He gets it now. The light bulb has gone completely on for Lawrence. He's got an insane amount of weapons now around him. And next season, you talk about fantasy, that's a guy you definitely have to put in bold on your draft boards for sure. And that's how good Trevor Lawrence is. Hi, Grind, don't stop. Nice to see you too. Donald would help. It's just Watson last few weeks have been ridiculous. Yeah, as far as Christian Watson is concerned, yes, there's got to be some regression eventually. He's next year he's going to be a 3rd round pick in fantasy. It took him a while for the light bulb to go on. He, coming from a smaller school. He was injured in training camp. just like with Treylon Burks, sometimes with these receivers, you don't have a Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase who literally hits the ground running coming out of college. So it definitely took him a long time. Yeah, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, who's a free agent, but they're probably going to re-sign them. I think, and for Ingram too, it would make sense to re-sign the success that he's had there. Travis Etienne, a rested Travis Etienne who's tired. He's got to stop fumbling the damn football, though. I mean, he's fumbling all the time. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And Zay Jones, how about Zay Jones? I mean, a few people remember that he completely washed out in Buffalo, had some really bizarre behavior. I know he got cited by the police once for appearing in public intoxicated with no clothes on. I mean, it was just bizarre stuff when Zay Jones first started out his career. But he has now found a comfort in this Jacksonville offense. And you talk about a league-winning wide receiver the last month of the season, that's Zay Jones for sure. Need your thoughts. Up 10.4 points, full PPR. Guy is Watson tonight. That's trouble, Duvernay. That's trouble. I think that, I think Watson could easily eclipse that. I mean, he's been doing it every week. You got to think that there is regression coming. But, I think Baker Mayfield's going to keep that game a little bit more competitive deeper into that game. And let's face it, the Rams are not that great anyway. I mean, the Packers aren't that great anyway. So it might be more competitive than you would think. And, Rodgers has got a thing with Watson now. And, like we saw with Devontae Adams, he tends to lock in on his big play downfield receivers because Rodgers just wants to sling it down the field. And, I think that Watson is now that guy. But you know what? It's possible. It's definitely possible. Anything is possible. I mean, I'm down 65 points with Aaron Jones and Christian Watson going tonight. Zero chance that's going to come through. But I have it says I have a 6% chance. So you tell me there's a chance, right? So, it's anything is possible in fantasy. I mean, we've seen it. There's that famous Matthew Berry video when he literally needed 1 point from Alfred Morris to win his fantasy football championship. And Morris got one carry for, I think it was -2 yards. And he went absolutely bonkers the next day on whatever show he was on. Look it up on YouTube. It's just a classic video. I couldn't even imagine losing in that fashion where you literally needed 1 point from Alfred Morris. And he got negative, I think it was -1 or -1.5. So, that's beyond rough. Now, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I have one team that's left next week. Jonathan Taylor, lost him. I'm not losing sleep over it anyway. I mean, let's face it, he's been a bust. There's no other way to classify Jonathan Taylor than that he is arguably the biggest fantasy bust of the season, considering that he was the number 1 overall pick in the majority of leagues. I know I did that. I fell prey to it. What he had done the previous season, and lesson learned for sure. I should have took Justin Jefferson, went against my better judgment. Even Christian McCaffrey, who I was also wrestling with, but the injury history scared me. McCaffrey's been finally stays healthy, and I had the chance to own him and I didn't do it. So that's how it goes sometimes. Gardner Minshew might be a play this week. You know what? He could be. He could be, Danzel. Gardner Minshew has ability. He's right there near the top as one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he could start for probably, 30% of the teams in the league. He's a fun player, the mustache and all that stuff. He's athletic. He can run. He's got good accuracy. He doesn't have a great arm, but he's got good accuracy on the short to intermediate throws. And he brings an energy. He brings a spark whenever he plays. So, in super flex leagues, yeah, I think he could be a play. Blair Davis, hey, boss, how do you feel about McKinnon? Dude has been on fire these last 2 games. I'm thinking about starting him next week over McLaurin, who the point. Yes. So I absolutely would start McKinnon. I can't even believe what he's done the last couple of weeks. It's been insane. Nobody could have saw that coming. He's hinted at PPR ability like this in the past, when he was with Minnesota, but obviously not to this extent. And I know I was completely wrong about him this week. I got a lot of questions about McKinnon. Should I start him this week? And I said no, because I really thought that the Chiefs were just going to blow the Texans out of the building, as they really should have, because the talent disparity between those two teams is literally on the polar opposite ends there. But, just like Houston the week before against the Dallas Cowboys, they were very competitive. And you got to give Lovie Smith credit. The team is still playing hard for him. Without Brandon Cooks, without Dameon Pierce, and they hung tough. But Yeah, McKinnon, that game was competitive way longer than I thought it would be. And that's why he was able to accrue the points he has. He was able to accrue those points. And he's really making a huge difference down the stretch of the season. Every year you get these guys that come out of nowhere and, like put up league winning numbers. And that's what McKinnon is doing. You would get big trades through. He wouldn't be good if he was still in Carolina. No, I agree. He would not be as good there. Houston's played well, good coaching. Yeah, very good coaching. Lovie Smith is not my cup of tea usually. But let's face it. I mean, they're definitely playing well for him for sure. I think Pacheco's fumble took McKinnon maybe. Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid does not tolerate fumbles, and when Pacheco fumbled, that was a big no-no, and that did open the door to McKinnon. But let's face it, McKinnon is perfect for this offense, and really, McKinnon is doing what they thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to do when they used a first-round pick on him. Edwards-Helaire was the last pick of the first round. Massive expectations, and like I just said, McKinnon's numbers now are what they expected Clyde Edwards-Helaire to do earlier in the season there. So, just crazy stuff there. Yesterday was beyond wild. There's no doubt about it. And, talking again about that New England game, Mac Jones is not the answer. And I think Bill Belichick realizes Mac Jones is not the answer. He had a really good rookie year. He's not terrible. I mean, he's got good accuracy, gets the ball out quick. Good ball placement, but he doesn't have any sort of an arm. He has no mobility. So, you could live with a quarterback who's got a gun that has no mobility. I mean, Dan Marino made a career out of that, Hall of Fame career out of that. And even to a lesser extent, guys, like Ken O'Brien back in the day with the Jets, Troy Aikman wasn't mobile, but, you just can't live with a guy who doesn't have an arm and is not mobile. And that's what Mac Jones is. Minshew or Watson, I have Hurts. Oh man. I mean, I would say Watson. I don't want to go with Gardner Minshew in the fantasy football semifinals. But I mean, I know tough decisions have to be made, but I think the rust is starting to come off with Watson finally. I think they release CEH in the offseason. What's a good land? Yeah, I think they're definitely going to release CEH. He's going to be a committee back somewhere. I don't know where, but nobody's going to give him an opportunity to be the bell cow back. He's too small, and he's just simply not that good. Really, honestly, the best part of CEH's career was like the first 3 or 4 weeks of his rookie season when it looked like he was the real deal, and then it just all went to hell from that point on. And there's a lot of free agent running backs: Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley. I believe Antonio Gibson's free as well. There are a lot of guys that are free agents, name players, that it's going to be interesting to see how the market transpires. I'm up 12. An opponent has Aaron Jones and Matt Gay. Let's hope for a miracle. Yeah, Jeff, you're going to need a miracle. I don't see that being possible. But Aaron Jones has a history of getting nicked up, and he's nicked up right now. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if he wound up getting injured again, and AJ Dillon winds up spelling him. I mean, the Packers are an extreme long shot to make the playoffs. So, I don't think it would preclude them from sitting him down if the situation warrants there. So somebody mentioned San Francisco playing against Washington next week. It's going to be really ugly for Washington. This San Francisco 49ers team that I absolutely love. I think they could absolutely get to the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if they could win it with Brock Purdy. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo comes back by then, but it's going to be scary to see what this team can do in the playoffs. And listen, the Minnesota Vikings, great story. I mean, that was just unbelievable on Saturday. That team is not legit. They are a paper tiger. 49ers with Brock Purdy will absolutely beat them in the playoffs. Maybe Jones is necked up like Stevenson was last night. Listen, I mean, it's you never know with the injury report. You never know what, you saw what happened with T. Higgins with the Bengals. There's a lot of, BS with coach speak and injury reports and all that other stuff. So you never know for sure what the real situation is with a guy's health. Aaron Rodgers, Goff, Purdy, Mike White, Wilson, or Minshew off waivers. I got Hurts. Yeah, you're another one. I haven't really digested. Let me see. Let me look at the schedule for next week. So week 16, I do like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's putting up numbers. He's putting up like 2 touchdowns every week. All right, so Aaron Rodgers has Miami. I would pick up Rodgers. I don't even think I have to look any further beyond that. Let me just see what Detroit's got. So Because no, they're on the road and against Carolina, which is a good defense. I would pick up Aaron Rodgers. And he does suck on the road. He wasn't great yesterday. He's got smaller hands. Jared Goff, so outdoors, it's not. It's a bit of a struggle for him. Coming into the game, 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on the road this season, and it was pretty obvious what was going to happen there against a solid Jets defense, albeit one that was missing Keenan Williams for sure. Vikings are even more legit. No, they're not legit. Definitely not tripping for sure. San Francisco 49ers will absolutely beat the Minnesota Vikings. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins. That game that was against Indianapolis, who was probably the worst coach team in the NFL. I'm not a Vikings believer. If you believe in them, then that's fine. I respect that, but I do not believe in this Vikings team one bit. Between Rodgers, Goff, or Purdy, I would go Rodgers. I definitely would go Rodgers because he's got Miami. You just saw what Josh Allen did against Miami, and I had the unfortunate luck to go against Josh Allen and his 40-plus fantasy points. And, he clearly is the number 1 quarterback again next season. There's no doubt about that. So, it's that goes without saying. I mean, that guy is so good. It's just ridiculous. So, we got Christmas Eve games this week. It's a little bit distracting. I don't know. Everybody's, if you celebrate Christmas, it's always tough to focus in on any football that's on when you got, family obligations and things of that nature. But, there's some fairly good games. I know the Christmas Day games are pretty bad. I think Denver's playing Arizona. Tampa Bay is playing somebody that's not. Tampa Bay, I believe, is playing Arizona. Denver is playing another bad team. I don't remember exactly who they're playing, but the Christmas slate is going to be an ugly one. You could probably just skip over those games altogether. Some of the other things yesterday. So Taysom Hill, I said that he was going to be a bigger part of the offense, and he was through a touchdown pass. He's now pretty much almost not guaranteed, but he's got a very good chance of scoring double digits every week at the tight end position. It's been a lot of fun to have Taysom Hill this season just for the what he brings as the rare quarterback tight end guy that you never see in that kind of combination in fantasy. So, that's been fun. You might want to think about using him going forward as well. Let's see. That's what I get for bragging about how Hurts won me this week. Yeah, listen, I mean, that was crazy. And honestly, I'm shocked that it took this long for Jalen Hurts to get hurt because he's not a big quarterback. And with as much running that he does, Denver plays the Rams. There's no point even watching that game. With all the running that Jalen Hurts does do, I thought it would happen, a lot earlier. DeAndre Swift fans, 8 for 52 yesterday, 6.5 a pop. The Zonovan Knight story ended with a thud, 13 for 23, 1.8 per carry, and he got banged up as well. So it looks like that story is now over. Also have McKinnon on the roster. I didn't think the start him, ends up going with the hot. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, Bam Knight, it was bad. It wasn't good. Not at all. Najee Harris scored a touchdown on the ground. I went against Najee Harris. The guy that I played in that one league had like 8,000 touchdowns. There was nothing I could do. One of those things where you literally had no chance to win. And I'm actually glad it's over because that team just frustrated me all season. Is Knight a drop now? I wouldn't say he's a drop. I mean, they're playing Jacksonville, who's not good defensively. You got to check the injury report. Oh, that's the other thing. Let me go through the injury report. I forgot to do that because there's just so much going on with that New England game. All right, let's go through that. So Jeff Wilson, according to Mike McDaniel, was close to playing on Saturday. He's going to be a go this week. Raheem Mostert looked great against Buffalo. He really did. He looked refreshed. I think Jeff Wilson, what that afforded was Mostert the opportunity to take a breath, get his bearings back underneath him, and he looks pretty good for the stretch run. Moss or Jackson, Deion Jackson, Moss is we've seen Moss multiple times. He's just not a good running back. At least Jackson will catch the ball as well. I prefer neither one, actually. Early top waiver ads. Well, Deion Jackson's going to be one of them for sure. Got to check on Zonovan Knight, see what his deal is. Gardner Minshew, certainly in super flex leagues, is somebody that I would pick up. I'm going to do when I go live tomorrow, we'll discuss that a little bit more. Would you start Kirk over Watson, Goff, or Purdy? Kirk over Watson, Goff, or Purdy for what are you who are you talking about? Oh, Kirk Cousins. I'm not playing Goff on the road next week. I'm not playing Purdy. I still don't, I don't trust him with that, in the fantasy football semifinals. I guess I would start Kirk. I mean, listen, he's as hot as a pistol right now. Should I sit Etienne, Mixon, or Ramadre? You got to sit Etienne. He's on fumes, not playing well. He's fumbling everything. It's not good. If he played, he's got a coach that's a little bit more forgiving. If he played for half the coaches in this league, he wouldn't get off the bench after another fumble yesterday. So we talked about Jalen Hurts. Let me see. McCoy. So Colt McCoy is in concussion protocol. Doesn't look like he's going to play this week. So, and one of the things that really hurt me is that I'm a DeAndre Hopkins owner in that league that I lost and got my ass beat. As soon as McCoy went out and Trace McSorley, who's just a little bit better than Zach Wilson, maybe, I knew I was toast. I mean, Malcolm Brown, Hollywood Brown, excuse me, and DeAndre Hopkins value, both of those guys are now like wide receiver threes with Trace McSorley. Like, that's how bad it is. And, again, a lot of times a fantasy football winner in your league has the healthiest team down the stretch. That's a lot of times what it comes down to. Mixon has a tough matchup. He does, and he hasn't been great, honestly. If you take away that 5-touchdown game, Mixon has not been good at all this season. Madre should be Madre should be good, and he was pretty good. 20-plus fantasy points last week, but that's tough on Etienne and Mixon. Waller or Freiermuth. I mean, Waller had a decent comeback. I would go Waller. I think I would go Waller because, Davante Adams the last 2 weeks, he's been, double, even triple teamed. And I think that's going to open up opportunities for Waller. All right. So Ron Rivera was a little hesitant about endorsing Taylor Heinicke going forward. Carson Wentz is still there. We all know Carson Wentz sucks at football as well. The guy's a complete baby. I even if Carson Wentz becomes a starter, there's no point even bothering there. Should I stick with Andrews? Oh man, listen, if you have a viable alternative, you can't wait anymore. We've been waiting on this guy for over a month now. I thought Tyler Huntley, all the success they had together last season would unlock him. It has not happened. You can't wait around forever. So if you still own him, then I would seriously consider looking for an alternative. I have Ingram and Waller. Oh, geez. Yeah, absolutely. I would go with either one of those guys over Mark Andrews, especially Ingram. Ingram's been really good. Austin Eckler, shoulder, big scare yesterday. Went out early, didn't come back right away. Shoulder injury, tests were performed today, negative. He's good to go. Next year, I'm going to be out on Austin Eckler because of his age. I believe he's going to be 28 next year. I know not a lot of usage his first few years in the league, but he's a smaller back. He's taken a lot of pounding the last couple of seasons, so I'm very leery about him next year. And what's interesting is that very few, it's not enough is given, I should say, talked about Eckler in terms of being an undrafted free agent. We'll talk about a real find. I mean, the Chargers, signed him as a free agent. He's turned out to be one of the best backs in the NFL over the last 5 years. Just ultra productive, as tough as nails. If you're not a fan of Austin Eckler, then you're just not a fan of football. Even if it's Lamar back and they play the Falcons. I think it's 50-50 if he comes back. If he's playing the Falcons, Lamar, I would seriously consider playing him. Khalil Herbert was designated to return this week. Not sure if we should really expect anything out of him. Justin Jefferson, no issues coming off of the injury. So I think he's going to be okay. He got dinged up a couple of times in that Indianapolis game, going into the blue tent. It looks like he passed all the tests. Oh, I mean, for playing Andrews. Yeah, listen, Andrews wasn't playing great with Lamar outside of the first few weeks, even when Lamar was healthy. So again, you have Evan Ingram, who's been hot as a pistol. Gotta have to start chasing against the Pats defense who limited Davante Adams. Yeah, they did, but you have a better quarterback. Joe Burrow is better than Derek Carr for sure. And, I'm not talking fantasy. Joe Burrow is just really fucking good. Like, he really is. Like, he is just scary good. When he gets hot, there are, other than maybe Josh Allen, there's not a better quarterback in the NFL. He is the real deal. Fantastic player. leader. They love him there. He could play for my team any day. Tough as nails, always fights to the last minute, fights to the last snap. Love Joe Burrow. Sam Darnold going to start again next week. Who cares? He's entering in the career journeyman backup phase of his career. Caleb Huntley, Achilles injury, out for the season. Not much to talk about there. And, Cordell Patterson, disappointing encore there with the Falcons. Sammy Watkins got released. I think his career is pretty much over. Zonovan Knight, ankle injury. He's going to be questionable for Thursday. Mike White still being looked at. Mike White is not going to play. He's not going to get cleared by doctors, 3 days later after he wasn't cleared to play, this past Sunday. And the Jets really should have won that game. They really should. High ankle sprain for Jonathan Taylor. Probably not going to play again this season. Just a god-awful situation with Taylor. Horrible development, horrible draft pick, complete bust. No other way to look at it. And that's when the fantasy football season is over, I'm going to run a series of videos, 2022 fantasy football, what we learned. One of them, don't chase running backs off major workloads the previous season. Jonathan Taylor was pretty much run into the ground by the Colts last season, and he bounced. That's a horse racing term. When a horse runs a career race, often the next race they bounce or they have a listless outing because they're tired. Same thing with running backs. Going all the way back to Jamal Anderson. I don't know if you remember him, the inventor of the Dirty Bird, the Atlanta Falcons, had just an insane 300-plus carry season. It was never the same after that. You look at Saquon Barkley this season, 35 carries against the Texans. He wasn't the same for about a month. Taylor, crazy workload in college, crazy workload last season, completely bounced this season. Next season, Josh Jacobs going to bounce. Jacobs is going to be a first-round pick, guys. He's going to bounce next season. I'm completely out on Josh Jacobs for that reason. Josh McDaniels running him into the ground, has no intention of re-signing him. Maybe they franchise tag him for 1 year. That's possible. They're not handing him a new contract. They've abused him tremendously. There is no incentive for the Raiders to bring him back. Would you play Jay Johnson or new? You know what? Honestly, Johnson. That was unbelievable. How many touchdowns does he have now? Like 8 or 9. He's every week. It seems like that guy scores a touchdown. Juwan Johnson quietly, real nice story this season at a tight end position that we're always looking for more help. This guy has stepped up. And honestly, looking at the tight end position again, George Kittle got hot last week, but overall he hasn't been great. Darren Waller, bust. TJ Hawkinson really hasn't been good either. Mark Andrews has gone bust. Travis Kelce, still a gem. He's going to be 35 next season. So the tight end position, it's been all about the value guys this season. Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth, Juwan Johnson, while the top guys have all kind of bombed out. Dallas Goedert having a tremendous season. I'm going to exempt him from that. He got hurt. Can't help that. David Njoku, when he's on the field, he's been all right, but he's always hurt. So a lot of stuff. I can't wait until the regular season is over for fantasy. Not going to, I don't believe in fantasy week 18, so I'm not going to be going into any coverage for week 18. If you have a fantasy final in week 18, then you need to find a new league because that's just criminal. Should never have a fantasy championship in week 18. With all the players that sit out and stuff like that, there's just no point in that. But yeah, so, wild day yesterday. Like I said, I didn't do live stream yesterday. I wanted to watch the Giant game. Truth be told, I was licking my chops, licking my wounds, I should say, after getting my ass handed to me in one of my leagues. And it was one of those complete butt kickings which began Saturday with Josh Allen that I couldn't actually, it started the previous Thursday with George Kittle. It was such a complete butt kicking that it almost was not as stressful because you know what? I never really had a chance. It's worse, I think, when you lose close in the fantasy playoffs, like if you lose by like 5 points or less, or God forbid, even like 2 points or less, that's like so much worse. That keeps you up at night. Whereas I'm down by 60 something points. I'm probably going to wind up losing by 20 plus. And you just throw your hands up and say, that's fantasy football. I can live with that. You know what I mean? Other than losing close. And God, I've had a couple of I've lost 2 games this season in that league by less than half a point combined. So that's just brutal. But anyway, all right, guys, going to end the stream here. Thanks for joining me. Going to be back tomorrow, probably around 5 or so. Actually, tomorrow's Tuesday. It's probably going to be 6. A little later tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. Hit the subscribe, the notification button. Waiver Wire Tuesday, going to go over the waiver options for the waiver wire on Wednesday. So make sure you tune in for that. Until then, guys, have a great night. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.